Welcome to the Ascension Football Show. I'm Kieran Edwards. Football fans would know we had some turmoil with the men's national senior team. An international coach had to be removed that basically failed to qualify for the Qatar 2022 World Cup. We installed a local interim coach in Angus Eve that had some success. The man that speaks for them, we have him on set today. When we come back, we're going to local football.
When you look at the landscape now, we are way less player-centered.
I think everybody else is being part of the tournament besides Trinidad.
These are the groups that actually make up the TTFA, right?
As we said before, the man that speaks for local football coaches is here on set, Mr. Jefferson George, interim president of the Coaches Association. President, I don't want to say that Ascension crown your president. Are you the interim president of the Coaches Association?
Well, according to the Constitution, I am currently the interim president of the Unified Football Coaches of Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay, but not the Coaches Association just yet, because how is that? Or is it a renaming of the Coaches Association?
Yeah, it is. That is the name that we are registered in the Ministry of Legal Affairs as, but right. We are functionally the Coaches Association of Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay, no problem. I just wanted to claim, because I know it has some misconceptions, but
yes.
Jefferson, it's a pleasure to have you on set, brother.
Really happy to be here.
All right. I want to dive right into it because persons will know of Jefferson. We seeing you on TV, we hearing comments, we reading things on the papers about coaches and local coaches. We saw the success of a local coach in Angus Eve. But we want to know about the man, Jefferson George. Tell us about yourself, about your playing days, where it started, and knowing that you are a coach, but you would have played as well. So
yes.
I want to get some of your playing days.
Well, the history is quite short. I started playing. I was an athlete first, actually. I started sprinting in primary school. So my early days, I would have been more heading for Olympics than the World Cup. All right, but in secondary school, I made the switch. Always loved football, and went to play with Princeton Junior Sec. Then over to the Senior Sec back in those days. Now Princeton West Secondary and this stuff. And we actually won the Intercol the first year that I arrived there. I played 2 games in that season, but we had...
So a sprinter come and win Intercol in his first year?
One time, playing just 2 games, you know.
Okay.
Right, yeah, but that, you know, is how things fell in place. We had a really good team that year. Ike Jerwan, Clifton Blacksmith Gomez, right? Some really good players. Yeah. And we were able to win the National Intercol. It's a very small school from a very far place for most people, right? And from there, I went on to play the following 2 seasons, and then went on to represent the college all-star team in the Norway Cup. Right, that for me was a good experience. I think that was my first time, representing the country on that scale. Yeah. Right, because I didn't play the other youth football from under 14 and stuff. I was, more into sprinting. Right, so my first entrance into national football would have been at the under 20 level, playing alongside people like Derek King and Kerwin Hardis Jamot, right? Cornell Glenn, right? Nigel Peer, right? Was on that.
A lot of players that went on to represent the senior national team
Chase
as well.
Scotland.
Right.
That was my under 20 team. I also went on to represent the Olympic team, right? Where again, Brent Sancho's and the other guys who moved up. Travis Mulrain was on that under 23 team.
So you did have some experience
in
the Olympics.
Outside
the sprinting, you had some.
I qualified for that team,
Right.
And Kelvin Jack, actually. Kelvin Jack, I was, he was reserved to me, right? And for me, that took me into the professional arena. I had actually won senior team selection, playing when René Simonis was here, taught at China, right, in a Tri-Nation tournament. And from there, going on to play with W Connection, coaching at Joe Public, and then player coach in the twilight of my career with Mapo FC.
With Mapao. So that is where you transition into coaching with Mapao.
Well, truth be told, I began to qualify myself quite early for coaching.
Is it that you wasn't too good and you realized, well, I'll do better? They say you can't do teach. If you can't do it,
teach. If you can't do teach. I maybe picked up that early.
All right.
I might have picked that up quite early because at 19, I had already done my first set of courses and so on. So the creation of goalkeeper coaching, if we are to recall, is relatively new to us, right? So in my earlier days, I didn't have a goalkeeper coach. Right? The head coaches would, give their time and go through
you're drills like a stopper.
Right, know. And when I did my first course, I ended up being, on many teams that I went to, de facto goalkeeping coach slash player coach type
better we
yes.
use
Yes, even at W Connection, we had a goalkeeper coach for the first 2 seasons. But for my 3rd season, I became player coach there, although I was playing quite a bit at that time.
Okay, okay. And give us the experience of, you said you made 1 senior cap. Give us the experience of being on that national team, having that first cap. Because I think many players would have tried to make that senior team. And you had that experience. Give us the experience of...
The senior team, as we were discussing offset, is... I think we are blessed to have so many quality players, and again, my introduction into senior football, would have been, again, as a younger player, getting to train and play alongside people like Arnold Dwarica, who you would have seen playing, you grow up, looking at them, and, that was really good. Michael McCormy, late Michael McCormy was, him and I was the goalkeepers on that tour.
So, we know that you'd have been part of the national system, playing under 20, playing Olympics, playing with the senior team. What's your thought on the state of the national structure currently?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, in Trinidad, Trinidad and Tobago, I have to say, the players seem to be last on the list, right? Players seem to almost be sort of an afterthought. And I think it's something that we need to address if we are to improve and continue to create the type of huge players who had so much real impact. We need to address and become more player-centered. And I think when you look at the landscape now, we are way less player-centered than we were. So you find that players are being left out. And I think for us to really regain the status that we had in the region and go on to do better things in CONCACAF, we need to begin to support the players better than we are doing now.
But do you really think, Jefferson, we could reach back to being a powerhouse in CFU, in CONCACAF, being one of the top 6 teams, no matter what, in CONCACAF? Do you believe we could achieve that status once again?
I have to believe, and the reason I'm here is because I do believe. What I don't believe it is going to be a quick fix or any short-term measure will be able to get us there. I believe we have to begin investing in the youth heavily, right? Getting communities and getting zonal football again, revitalized and really getting a wide catchment area of people from the Sandy Grandes, Tocos, Point Fortin, Mayaros, and that comes true when your community structures are well.
But seeing we are in a pandemic, seeing the state of our local game in terms of no football being played in about 2 years.
Yeah.
Recently the under 14 and under 14 men and women and girls, boys and girls team were not granted the opportunity to go and play in the CONCACAF tournament. What is your thought in terms of the lack of players being, or young players being enthusiastic about playing football. They might go to other sports, we might lose footballers to now wanting the Olympics. We saw we had a dip in the Olympic team, but persons may say, all right, I want to go into running. As you said, you were a runner. So what's your thoughts on that? We losing players to other sports in terms of football?
That for me is very is unsettling, right? For us, I think we were really disappointed. The Coaches Association position on that is we are too small to lose opportunities like these to expose our players. Right now, when you have regional tournaments like this, which is something that everybody's been clamoring for at the CFU level,
for some
right?
time.
From some time.
Yeah, we
right?
had it in the past and then it
Exactly.
stopped, and now you're pushing to get back.
Need to get this back.
Yeah.
We get it now. We get an opportunity, I should say, and we are not able to capitalize because I have to say it's because we weren't prepared for the opportunity, right? We didn't plan for it, right? Or whatever the reason might be.
Maybe not prepared. We don't have 14 boys and girls playing football in Trinidad, Jefferson.
And that's what I'm saying. What really can be a justifiable reason to deny these youngsters from representing their country? This is experience that will serve us,
What about
5, 6
COVID?
years
What
down
about
the
the
road.
pandemic? Pandemic is what everybody using pandemic.
But that seems to be our go-to excuse.
Yeah. You can't go to work game. You get up and you're feeling to go to work. Pandemic, COVID. So I think at the pandemic, because other nations, other countries are taking part. I think everybody else is being part of the tournament. Besides Trinidad.
That's a fantastic point.
And so the pandemic is so serious and so severe in Trinidad.
But it seems as though we are the only ones who aren't able to function in the midst of a pandemic because everybody seems to have worked it out, right? We're looking at some of the other countries and Jamaica who has been a rival. They seem to have gone and left us now, right? And the country is still, in the throes of dealing with the pandemic. They are implementing, I think just recently, a 24-hour curfew. You're inside for 24 hours. But while that is being done, the U15s are going to play in the same tournament that we are missing out on. So, the pandemic can't be an excuse. We can't use it as an excuse.
Because if we watch Jamaica, we are way behind Jamaica currently.
Definitely.
Some years back, we were in front of them by 20 marks in terms of ranking. We're behind.
Definitely.
Yeah, a lot. 50
Jamaica is studying us right now. Yeah.
But they understand the importance of development.
Yeah.
How much of an importance is it placed on development when it comes to Trinidad and Tobago football? You being the head of the Coaches Association, Unified Coaches, I'll say Coaches Association.
It's correct.
Right. So you being the head of that, how much emphasis is placed on development within coaches and the program?
Well, you mean currently or what we plan to do?
No, currently.
Currently, the evidence is there to suggest that not anywhere close to what it's supposed to be, right? I think we have the secondary schools, which is not really structured for development anyway, ends up being a de facto developmental
secondary
program.
school is the lifeline of football.
Exactly.
Youth football.
For youth football.
Yeah,
for youth football.
Yeah. And it's really not based on...
It should not be.
No.
It shouldn't be. School is set up for people to go and learn, right?
Yeah.
Your sporting activities are extracurricular activities.
Correct.
So it's not structured.
Plus, a coach getting a player in secondary school football a month before schools start and putting together a team. You can't really you can't lay that burden on that coach's shoulder to develop a player.
Exactly. So that is for me, and I know I speak on behalf of the association as well, because that is one of the areas where we see needs immediate and urgent attention, right? Youth player development. If we are to impact and improve, to have those glory days come back, we have to start there at your under 12s, under 14s.
So we can't place the blame on normalization. It's not the normalization process. It's the process of where's your thoughts on this cancellation of this tournament, or the youth 14 teams, boys and girls, not going to the tournament? Do you place any sort of blame on the normalization committee? What's your thoughts on that? Or are they just over the head in terms of, because the group is small, not much footballing persons behind the group. They didn't bring in any technical persons to support on the football side. And then you see we're missing out on these tournaments in terms of critical for our development. How much of that is based on the normalization in your view?
Well, that's an interesting question, and I would answer it in this way. Now, the normalization committee, they did not headed by Mr. Haddad, of course. They didn't try to mamaga anybody to tell them that they were football people, right? He were actually quite out front with that, and their aim really is to manage to restabilize football administratively, right? Now, having said that, if the expertise doesn't lie in the technical matters, then people have to be put in place who can chart that part for us. Us missing this opportunity has to go down to the framework, whoever are in place at the moment, not understanding how critical missing one tournament like this is for that generation that is going to advance. And let me give you one example. Now, in the future, when we re-engage and we begin playing again and we meet Jamaica at an under 16 tournament or under 17 tournament, those players would have had these games under their belts, while our players would not, right? Mm-hmm. And that is how this reflects going all the way up. Now, we were trying to see, and that's what we need to do, how many games can we add? And the higher the quality of the games, right? If these games are international games, that redounds to experience by these players going up. So you can see, let's take, for example, an American player. When we meet them at under 14, then you meet them again at under 16. Between that period, they would have played maybe 100 games. While our players, you play 5 of so much.
You will see the growth
as
well.
You're seeing that growth. That growth is, exponential. And that's why I'm saying the benefit, the importance of tournaments like these and missing them, I think this is going to set us back, quite some.
Jefferson, I want to ask, before we go to break, I want to ask you this last question before we go to break. As we're speaking about the Normalization Committee and football, what's your thoughts in terms of CONCACAF installing, FIFA and CONCACAF installing a Normalization Committee on Trinidad and Tobago football, with the focus of stabilizing the funds and the affairs of the association, the financial side of things? We know about the debt.
Right.
How much emphasis is placed by the Normalization Committee on football itself? And what, a stakeholder like yourself, being Coaches Association, what role do you have to play? What mantle do you have to pick up in this time, knowing that their priority is stabilizing the finances? On the field, what was your role? How do you see the Coaches Association operating in this time?
Right. Well, the Coaches Association, I believe, like any other stakeholder group, make up essentially the TTFA, right? The TTFA is made up of other stakeholder groups. You have the zones who would have been, they are permanent members, right? Yeah. You have the Super League, you have the Pro League. These are stakeholder groups, and these are the groups that actually make up the TTFA, right? Essentially. And so to say that our role in this whole framework, I see it as adding our technical expertise to setting up systems and so on, by which the TTFA business would be able to run from a technical side, along closer to what international best practices.
Right. When we come back from break, we're going to the role of the Coaches Association and the TTFA and the relationship between it when we come back.
The situation we have here is that these characters, and I refer to them as pests, right? What they are doing is destroying our country, but not on my watch. No street, no turf, no block shall belong to these cockroaches, right? It's no longer business as usual. Happy hour is over. If they don't fear God, at least they will fear Terminix.
Have you considered how your methods could impact on pests across the country?
I find we look after the rights of pests as opposed to the rights of the 1.3 million law-abiding citizens in Trinidad and Tobago. I wonder if Roach Ladden's son come here for carnival, if you'll interview him, eh?
But how could you defend one shot, one kill?
What, you want me to throw a pillow at him?
I didn't say that.
No, well, if a roach jumps in front of you now, what will you do?
Run.
Oh, Jesus, Lord Father.
Pests bothering you? Call Terminix at 672-5007 or 672-0042 or visit our website at terminix.co.tt for a free quote and consultation. Join our fight against pests.
Get in the game with Ascension. Quality for champions.
Ascension! Ascension! Premium quality and style make you stand out all the time. Ascension is quality for champions. Ascension fit is always right. Take your game to higher heights. Ascension got the quality for champions. So everybody say, hey, oh. We wearing Ascension when we play. To run out on the field in style. What's the brand that we want? Ascension! 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 We wearing what we wearing is Ascension. Quality for a champion. Ascension! We wearing what we wearing is Ascension. Quality for a champion. Ascension! We wearing what we wearing is Ascension.
Get in the game with Ascension. Quality for champions.
Amante Del Cafe is located at Magnificent Mall, number 271 Southern Main Road, McBean, Couva. Amante Del Cafe. Happiness begins with brew.
Lasso Friend Maritime Limited, the best in marina services. At our facilities, security checks ensures that all vehicles are secured. Our newly renovated bathrooms are always kept in a clean working order. Need repairs and maintenance? We have you covered. Our qualified workmen will get the job done. Boat storages, from our marina, you can easily push off for a family sailing trip. Or out fishing with the boys. Or a fun DDI experience with friends. Boat repairs, secured parking, extensive camera system, boat charters, boat rentals, down the island parties. Contact us at 1-868-634 1653. Lasso Frame Maritime Limited. The best in marina services. Life's better on a boat.
And we are back. Jefferson, before we go into the role and the relationship of the Coaches Association and the TTFA, I want to find out, when would this position be official as the president of the or are you going to contest, or are you just holding on for the moment for someone else, or what's the situation when it comes to?
Okay, that's a good question. Well, as you would know, the Coaches Association came about through the non-payment of salaries to national coaches, and to deal with that is we formed a committee, right? And we had the mandate of putting a framework for the formation of a Coaches Association, which would be able to address not just those matters but other matters. And I have to say that I was really pleased with the enthusiasm and the persons who really stuck to get that going. So having given you the long answer, according to we had the Constitution actually ratified on Sunday, the 15th of August. So we do now have a guiding document by which we would be judged.
Yes,
okay. We do have a constitution, right, which again, as I was adopted and ratified on the 15th. Right. And so now we do have a document which guides how we operate. According to the Constitution, the elections would be in the month of April every 2 years. So the term is a 2-year term, with elections being held in the month of April. Right? So April 2022 would be the first AGM of the Unified Football Coaches Federation.
Okay. So you're acting as interim president until then?
Until such time, yes.
Okay. And you have intentions of contesting?
We have, I would have given to the committee and the executives, I pledged for them 1 term, right? And regardless of where we are at that time, I think that's enough time to really set things up. I don't intend to be a martyr for Trinidad and Tobago's football, right? So I think for me, I would be satisfied investing that time to set something
this
up.
1 term, I don't want to say you contested. The 1 term is
I would be. I would be contesting come April when elections are called.
So one thing I was looking at, I saw when you watch the constitution of the TTFA, you see Coaches Association as a member, a voting member, supposed to be a voting member. Why wasn't the Coaches Association operating as such in the past?
Well, again, when we would have done a lot of research last year in setting it up, we spoke to a lot of persons who would have been part of Coaches Association or attempts to form Coaches Association in the past. Person like Gally Cummings, as far back as Mr. Jimmy Blanche, who was a real source of inspiration, which he supports what we're doing. But that was since 1968. Right. That was the first attempt to form Coaches Association, and Mr. Jimmy Blanche was part of that. We were able to lean on their experiences, the things that they would have seen, get advice from them as to what probably we can do differently, right, to ensure that this is not something that is short-lived. Right. Now, the position or the association has been in abeyance, although the spot existed for it, right? In 2013, I believe, or somewhere around there was another attempt again, but because they were not functional, they were not compliant, right? They were removed from the system.
Okay. And how does a coach become part of the Coaches Association? Do you need to have a certain license? What is the situation? Because we know plenty communities have a team, a man have a team, and he's a coach. He never do a license, he never do a course. What is the situation? How do you become a part of the Coaches Association?
Right. Well, we are interested in, one of our major mandates is coaching education. So not having done formal coaching education is not a hindrance from someone joining the Coaches Association, because we believe that persons who have the necessary experience, maybe even coaching in your community, as I said, right, with younger persons, should be allowed access to improve themselves. They maybe don't have ambitions of being a national coach or going and coach any pro team, but in giving the youngsters, the same thing we were talking about in the last segment, in giving them proper guidance, they would need to bring themselves to a level where they can, have competence in order to impart onto the youngsters. So if somebody comes in without experience, we would be able to put them on a pathway that would be able to help them achieve that.
To reach to that point one day. So all right, so we're talking about coaches. We understand how even as a grassroots level community village team, you can be part of the coaches association.
That is right.
Only welcoming to anybody that really is interested in coaching or have any experience in coaching on whatever level.
Anybody, Trinidad and Tobago, yes.
Okay, and so give us some of the persons on this interim committee. Is a committee only formed?
Interim executive.
All right, interim executive. Give us some of the persons. Who are the persons?
All right,
if we may know any.
We have, you would know some of the names. We have Wayne Shepherd, right, who is currently the Sheppy, right, interim first vice, right. We sent to this in discussions with Tobago, right, to make sure they are properly represented. Most to have them fill the second vice president position that has been agreed, right. They have the blessings of the Tobago Football Association president, right, who we spoke to, and we are in
the new one, because I know we
Mr. Alfred,
yes, right. I just want to I don't even have previous discussions because I know it had a new election and Mr. Alfred,
right. So Mr.
we had discussions.
We had discussions with him. We have their blessings that they will nominate someone to sit. Right. We would have to do some work on the constitution again to make sure that that position is always made available to Tobago, so that they would have representation at all times at the executive level on the Coaches Association. We have our General Secretary, Mr. Rishon Maz. We have Mr. Johan Contaste, right? We have James Saunders, who was press officer, right? We have Mr. Curtis Orr, who is treasurer, right? And as I said, having just ratified the constitution, we will be moving swiftly to fill not just the executive positions, but also the standing committees, right? Which is something that we want to have functional. We are set a deadline of the end of September, for having all the committees filled. So you have persons who have reached out to us, international coaches, Trinidadians who are working abroad, Kendall Reyes, right? You have Stephen Hart as well, who reached out to us and is supporting what we are doing and so on. So we have reached our network out throughout Trinidad and Tobago and even in North America.
Well, the names they call, I know a few of the names, good persons, competent persons as well. So I think Coaches Association is good hands. Now let us reach to the relationship with this dynamic committee that you put together, executive you put together, and the dealings with the TTFA. What's your, in the perfect world, what's your how you want to see this TTFA and Coaches Association? Because as a zonal president myself, we have the way that we would love to see the operations with zonal football and the TTFA it really doesn't happen like that. What's your goal for the relationship with the TTFA and
right? Well, if we are to paint the ideal picture, which we already intimated doesn't exist,
it doesn't
most of the time. I believe that relationship should always be one that is of mutual respect, right, and understanding the roles and function of these stakeholder groups, right? Coaches Association, and you mentioned zones and so on. I believe the relationship between the central FA and these regional bodies should always be of mutual respect, understanding that these stakeholder groups bring value, right? They bring experience, right? They bring competence, right? In terms of setting a framework where the national football or business of football in general is really taken care of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but I think you're not asking for much in terms of the dealings.
Yeah, that's reasonable, I think.
But when we all right, so we hear about coaches association. We saw the appointment of a foreign coach, and we saw the issues behind that. The board appointing something and the coach being given something else, the president signed off on something else, and we saw where that led us. And seeing that the head of the technical committee sent out an apology in terms of appointing the person and that kind of stuff. And then seeing the appointment of a local coach and seeing the success of that person being able to qualify for the Gold Cup. We didn't get out the group stage, but some success from the demise that we were in after the failed World Cup qualifiers.
Correct.
What is the relationship in terms of selecting coaches, in terms of your role when coaches are selected for a national setup? How do you see that operating? Or is it a situation where whoever is in that seat as the TTFA could say, we don't want to hear from any stakeholders. We're doing what we're doing, and what's your take on that?
Well, that is, I think, at the heart of what can make appointments accepted by the public. If we can sort that dynamic out to have a process that is fair, that is transparent, and that involves looking at local coaches with equal footing than you would look at a foreigner, I think the public can be behind that. And that's what we need to get, because the role of the Coaches Association is not directly related to the selection of a national coach. And that's one thing that I want to make clear. We don't have intention, neither it is our function to select national coaches. That is up to the technical committee. However, we believe that there should be a system that is fair, that does not demoralize local coaches when that decision is eventually made. You may obviously have the one that you believe that should be selected, and that was going to happen every single time. But there must be some sort of proper justification for, okay, this was the process that was followed, and this process brought us to this individual.
Because we would have seen media reports. We had a great success of Anglesey with the team in the Gold Cup and Gold Cup qualifying. And then we would have seen the selection of the backup staff to the women's national team. We already appointed the head coach, a foreigner, an international person from Wales, not having much experience as a head coach, but we're giving him a chance. I think opportunities must be given to persons for them to test themselves. But then coming into a foreign country, having the opportunity to now select the backroom staff, as you say, and having that backroom staff as well being foreigners after having the success, is it that we don't have any coaches for women football in Trinidad, or not? They're not good, so we had to forget about coaches with women football. What's your take? Because it was shocking for me. I think the country, it was the media. So what's you, as the head of the Coaches Association, how you do that?
I think we were disappointed, right? We were obviously disappointed, and again, it's not to throw any shade on the coach who was selected, right? Again, he is in the same craft like us, right? And we respect what he has come to do. But when you look at as you say, you have somebody who was appointed, and then you go and you select a staff that, for us, it's not so much whether in this case it's local or foreign. It's how does a local coach stack up against who you've brought, right? And when we look at that, we have coaches who, in our opinion, would be much more qualified, have much more experience, and would fit the scenario much better than he did.
But is it that the local coaches, just didn't apply for the job, or did they apply and
Well, we are sure that the local coaches did apply, right? And sadly, some of them weren't even contacted.
But this debate about local and foreign, I honestly have no qualms with having a international coach in any team,
right.
No, none at all. But I truly believe that an international coach should be adding something more that a local just doesn't have. We're going to a tournament playing at a certain brand, a certain style, and you needed somebody with certain expertise. to get us to that position. That's the view amongst most zonal presidents that I have spoken to. What's the Coaches Association take in terms of, or are you going to frame anything to say, well,
The local versus
yeah,
foreign.
yeah, how do
debate.
you implement that?
Well, we see it, just like you see it, because at the end of the day, as I said, we are coaches. We are coaches, and when you begin to do your badges, you begin to qualify yourself, you are preparing yourself for the international market, right? So I always encourage coaches, regardless of where they start, if their ambition is to coach at the national level, I'm not preparing to coach Trinidad. I'm preparing to coach a national team.
Yeah.
So regardless if Italy calls me tomorrow, I should be ready, to take that position up. And of course, based on the level where you are at. And that is how I see it. The issue is just the same one that you picked up. That individual, I worked with many foreign coaches who we had here, right? René Simone is among them as a player, right? As a coach, I had Otto Pfister, right? Coaching on the staff with him. And yes, the reason you have them sometimes can be justified. Now, again, you may still not agree, but the reason can be justified. You can see this person brings something that you may not find among your local group, right? It will come like, the Ministry of Education deciding to say, let's go and bring in teachers from Spain or from Denmark or from wherever. That's not going to happen. Tutor will be all up in that, right? And same, we are saying, if we have people who are qualified for the position, who have experience for the job, let them be the first option, right? If we don't have that, then we can look outside. But in terms of local versus foreign, there's no real resistance to having a foreign coach, but let it make sense.
Make it make sense. Yeah. I understand. And we know that we are going into our next period of selecting a national coach again, because we know the tenure for Angus Eve was interim for 2.5 months, I believe. And so you'll have to appoint a new coach.
Correct.
In your views, did Angus do enough to gain the job? And two, what's your take in terms of the approach when it comes to appointing a new national head coach?
Right. I think Angus did enough based on the time that he had to prepare a team and based on what he was able to present on the field. I believe that he did sufficient to warrant an opportunity to coach the team, right? He should have an opportunity to coach the team because there are a lot more players, if you look at it, who could have been added to that squad. We keep mentioning the pandemic, but without the restrictions and so on, right, and with longer time, it is fair to say that Angus may have done, much better.
Much better.
Yeah.
And the take on terms of the Gold Cup, we had the as a coach yourself, we qualified for the Gold Cup, and then going into the Gold Cup, drawing against Mexico, watching not qualifying out the group. What that feeling? Because I think the local fans they won a high after the Mexico game, and then we end up not qualifying. We kind of went off, drawing the last game as well. Was a bit disappointing for us. What's your take on in terms of that Gold Cup experience as a coach and the head of the coaches? So you would have discussions amongst coaches. What's your take?
Yeah, well, the consensus is that we performed creditably. Now, you mentioned the Mexico game. I think the Mexico game would have given persons who didn't have hope, and their expectations, I believe, were raised, without really looking at that bigger picture, right? And for me, when most of the coaches agree that what we were able to achieve in the Mexico game, had that gone the other way, we lose 1-0 or 2-0, we would have still said, given our recent performances, that would have been a creditable showing by a team that we've been struggling, right? This Mexico team that we were able to shut out, they defeated Nigeria 4-0, 7 days before, right? So again, they were overwhelmingly right? The favorites.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the result in that game, that 0-0, would have given persons some expectation that I think would have been probably not really realistic.
Not being real.
Yeah.
Okay. I got you. But watching the football, plenty persons will be talking about Trinidad not being able to score. We had the years gone by when we playing. Even let's take it back to the World Cup qualifying. We went through a group where all the group winners scored 12 plus goals.
Yeah.
And we in a group as ourselves where we need to top. I think we scored like five goals, yeah. And we went to the Gold Cup after scoring the first game. We scored a couple of goals, but then we went into a draw the second game, winning on advancing on penalties, and then going into the Gold Cup, scoring in the Gold Cup. Scoring I believe one goal or 2 goals? Two goals in the World Cup, in the Gold Cup itself, in the group phase. Still lacking goals. As a coach, what is it turnaround? What do you think we could do as a nation to turn around? Because we need to get goals. Goals win matches. What is your thoughts on that?
Well, we'll be looking at the Gold Cup, and that's the most recent opportunity we have to assess the team. But we can take this same problem of goal scoring 5 years back.
Yeah.
And
Going back since
that.
I think after Stephen Hart, we have not.
Goals have dried up. Goals have dried up.
Same players. Do you think it's down to the coaching and whoever that
probably giving other players opportunities
as well?
Well, again, that will be down to when we are able to put a proper development structure in place, when you're able to put a proper system for selection and so on in place, when you have a technical committee, you can give advice to your head coach, right? Because that is something that we also need, right? As the Coaches Association, we believe that accountability is important, right? So if you have a head coach who isn't being provided good or proper feedback after you go to a tournament, you come back and you just wait for the next one. After these tournaments, we should have an opportunity to debrief this coach, look at the things that went well, look at the things that didn't go well, and put programs in place to address our deficiencies. So it's an ongoing process.
Do you think the Coaches Association should have some input in that? Because we're
definitely going to be.
You want to have that. You want to be part of it.
We're definitely going to be a part of that. We're going to be putting proposals forward in terms.
But if the money hot seat, say, well, boy, that's I really don't want to know. Yeah. I don't want no committee. I don't want to hear about no stakeholder. I don't want to hear about no Coaches Association. Deal with that on all their own time. Then where do we go from there? Because we have a situation where we are lacking for goals. We're lacking for goals sometime. We have literally 3 administrations. We had the David Williams administration under Dennis Lawrence that were lacking for goals. We had the William Wallace that brought in Terry Fenwick, lacking for goals. Now we have the normalization after removing William Wallace's executive, and we're still lacking for goals.
True.
But no one is paying emphasis to the coach to say we need the coach has to, whoever the next coaches have to treat with that situation of the lack of goals, or they would be out the door as well.
That's for sure.
How would the Coaches Association demand that? Do you need the support of all the stakeholders? Because we have an AGM coming.
Right. Well, I think that is necessary. Football, for too long we've been too polarized and trying to operate and one individual or a couple of individuals believing I can do this or I can do that or I can and not understanding that together we are much more formidable force than apart, and we have to find ways in which we can work together. The scenario you painted there, that may very well be the reality, where people don't really want advice. They're not open to new suggestions and so on. But we can't allow that to dampen us and decide that we're not going to do anything, right? The Coaches Association will, we hope, would be part of the TTFA setup quite soon. But we also want to make sure that we are pulling our own weight, right? So coaches in the community providing opportunities for them to develop themselves, providing the players, because I remember at the end of the day, they are the most important group in this whole thing. If we don't have players, we don't have coaches, right? The game needs them more than it needs us. And I think if we can begin to focus on that, we address the problems that they have, and football in itself will move faster and further.
All right, Jefferson, before we go to the break, I want to talk about, as you mentioned, development in terms of the programs. I've been seeing again, message on my phone,
Right.
available for a free program. You can come and do a free course. What programs were you doing before, and what programs you intend to do with the Coaches Association to help coaches, as you mentioned, developmental players boil down to the level of coaches that are really helping them. And in terms of license, we hear about A license, B license, Trinidad TTFA license, CONCACAF license, UEFA license. I wanted to put that in the context of what you all are doing, and in terms of the license, what is the recommended license, or is it that all are the same?
Yeah, very good question, and again, a pertinent one. You know, around the circles, coaches are looking for their personal development, and we see ourselves as a conduit to provide more, to make more available opportunities for coaches to have that coaching education. We, as you would have known, created a partnership between ourselves and the KNBV, which existed before, right? It's really, going back to them and having them come in to do a part of our coaching education, which, we would hear much more on. We've already done 3 workshops with them. They did 2 basic workshops, and they did an advanced and periodization. We also have an alliance with the North American Caribbean group, who would be providing opportunities for coaches to go and do camps in the US, while they can also get their USSF and USC certification via the United States. So we do have several pathways that we are putting in place to make coaching education available to coaches. You mentioned which one we recommend or which one we would say. I believe coaching education is coaching education. The Coaches Association will, however, put a framework in place where we would require certain things at a particular level that a coach have, and begin to create a database of local coaches that we can then provide to the national setup when they have teams to select. Coaching education for me is like any other type of education. If you're going to learn English, if you learn it in Holland, if you learn it in Brazil, if you learn it in the USA, you learn English, right? You might have a different accent, but it's English. And that's what we want to provide for the coaches. So we want them to have a good understanding of football and be able to apply that in different situations and scenarios.
Fair enough. So Jefferson, I'm going to place here in the next segment in a bit of a bang. So when we come back, we put Jefferson George on the Lasso Free Marina hot seat.
Pest control is a pain, but you don't have to go it alone. If you're a business that needs someone who will fix your problems point blank, go with the brand that's tested. Go with Terminix. Born almost a century ago in Memphis, Tennessee, Terminix International's mission has been to spread its innovations across the world through its integrated pest and termite management system, reducing the infestation of pests and vermin. Our Trinidad franchise neutralizes the threat of tropical insects and ensures that companies, from food production to hospitality, protect their investment and get the maximum value from our relationship. And we've been doing it well for over 20 years. Termites and pests are relentless, but they're no match for Terminix. Contact us today for a free consultation and quote, and let's introduce you to convenience. Protect your premises today. Choose a service provider that persists. Talk to Terminix.
Pests bothering you? Call Terminix at 672-5007 or 672-0042 or visit our website at terminix.co.tt for a free quote and consultation. Join our fight against pests.
Get in the game with Ascension. Quality for champions.
Hey, Ascension! Ascension! Premium quality and style make you stand out all the time. Ascension is quality for champions. Ascension fit is always right. Take your game to higher heights. Ascension got the quality for champions. Now everybody say, hey, oh, we wearing Ascension when we play. To run out on the field in style. What's the brand that we want? Ascension! 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 We wearing what we wearing is Ascension. Quality for a champion. Ascension! We wearing what we wearing is Ascension.
Get in the game with Ascension. Quality for champions. Lasso Frame Maritime Limited, the best in marina services. At our facilities, security checks ensures that all vehicles are secured. Our newly renovated bathrooms are always kept in a clean working order. Need repairs and maintenance? We have you covered. Our qualified workmen will get the job done. Boat storages, from our marina, you can easily push off for a family sailing trip. Or out fishing with the boys. Or a fun DDI experience with friends. Boat repairs, secured parking, extensive camera system, boat charters, boat rentals, down the island parties. Contact us at 1-868-634-1653. Lasso Frame Maritime Limited, the best in marina services. Life's better on a boat.
Amante Del Cafe is located at Magnificent Mall, number 271 Southern Main Road, McBean, Couva. Amante Del Cafe. Happiness begins with brew.
Welcome back, and we are on the Lasso Frame Marina hot seat with Jefferson George. Jefferson, we're asking on the hot seat for you to select your all-time best Trinidad 11. But as the head of the Coaches Association, I wanted to pick a coach as well. And before we get into that, I want to ask you one last question from the interview. We know that we are singing out selections for our men's head coach of the men's senior national team. You being a coach, you being head of the the Coaches Association, I think everybody is a no-brainer. I'm head of the association. I'm sure I can plug myself to be the coach. Would you be applying for the role of the men's head coach when it comes out?
All right. Well, for me, and again, it's a personal decision, right? I don't want persons to have the to go away with the idea that this is a mandate or anything. I would not be applying for any TTFA positions while holding this position. I think we are in a position that's quite fragile, and me applying for a position or accepting a position to work on the TTFA can have the appearance, right, of
a conflict of
interest. And I'm glad you bring up that, because it's something that we want to address where coaches is concerned. I find it a little bit strange that persons would consider that a conflict of interest when we are in a media house here, so to speak, and the president of MAT, right, he is an announcer working as normal. The person who is the president of the Maxi Taxi Association, he has a Maxi. The person is the president of the Supermarket Association, he runs the supermarket, right? Why shouldn't the president of the Coaches Association be a coach, right, and be able to do that? I think I think it is
the Coaches Association a paying position, president of the Coaches?
Not at present, but we have the Constitution allows it. But I think we want to become a little more financially stable before we put that as part of the thing, and maybe doing a stipend. I believe in paying people for what they do. I believe if somebody is serving, right, they should be remunerated for their time and effort. And yes, we would be making that.
Okay, fair enough. So now I'm going to put you on the hot seat. I put you on the hot seat there because I think the country would ask that. So I put you on the hot seat there, but I want to put you on the hot seat with your all-time 11. And your best coach. I know you coached on, you played under one coach, you worked with one. You might be in some problems selecting one out of the two. So I want you to select your all-time 11, and you can't select yourself as a coach. I want to let you know that.
Or the goalkeeper.
I don't want to get to that. You can't select yourself on the team. So no bias in that as well. So select the coach and then give me the formation you would like to play. And then fill it out in terms of the players.
All right. I will go with Gally Cummings as my coach.
Okay.
Right. I'll go with Gally Cummings as the coach. I'm go with 4-4-2, 1-4-4-2. I'll go with Sherwin Julian at the left back. I'll go with Dexter Francis and Clayton Morris.
Clayton Morris, skipper. Right. Anita is skipper.
I'll go with, in the right back, let's go with Carlos Edwards. Right? At the...
And your goal. Who will play your goal?
Inside the goalkeeper?
Nah, it's your...
Russ
like
Russell.
You wanted to play So you say, well, I'm
goal already.
Yeah.
I am.
Go with Russ Russell.
I go with big Russ Russell in goal. Yeah. Right? He was outstanding, when in his period there. We had a group of fantastic goalkeepers. We could call one, but for me, I'll go with Russ.
Okay.
On the right side of the midfield, I'll go with Anglesive.
Okay.
On the inside, I go with Hudson Charles and Latopi. I'll go with Leonson on the outside, on the left, and up top, Sturgeon and Dwight Joe.
Yeah.
Who side beating people.
Who you lose sleep over?
I lose sleep over Dworka. Right? I lose sleep over Jaron Nixon out on the left.
Wow.
Yeah, that's that. Who else? I lose sleep over Marvin Faustin on the left back as well. We have some fantastic players. That at Trinidad, best 11 is a difficult team to pick.
Being a small island with the amount of quality players,
players.
We have Bunch Wise and
we have a nice bench there too.
Yeah. We have a lot of players. David Nackett in our midfield.
Easily. Easily.
So, So that's your all-time.
Yeah, I
11.
can sleep comfortable with that.
No, nobody calling you tonight and
I might get some calls.
because you pick a strike squad coach.
Yeah.
No strike squad goalkeeper, no World Cup. I watching the selection. I have some problems. I watching the selection. No Dennis Lawrence. No Marvin Andrews.
Marvin Andrews, I don't know what to do. You know.
All right. So being a coach,
Michael Maurice, how many good
no, but I know a large amount of those players are coaches now.
Yes.
You being the head of the coaches association.
Brandon Williams and the right
You might get some stick. You might get some sticking on the next meeting. So going with some, going expecting some stick. So it was a pleasure again, Jefferson, having you on set.
Appreciate it, man. It was good stuff.
Having the views of coaches, having your views. So it was a pleasure, man.
Nice, man.
Right. And that does it for another Ascension Football Show. Remember to follow us on our Facebook, YouTube, and our website at the AscensionFootballTournament.com.